Michelle Torrio, and this is the Be Mindful podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Be Mindful podcast. If you are new here on this podcast, there are many conversations about faith, mindset, neuroscience, growth, and so much more. If you're into that, keep listening because I am sure you will enjoy this episode. If you aren't yet, I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel at MindfulRae. Every episode that I record will automatically post on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and I believe iRadio. But would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube and also follow the podcast on whichever platform you are listening. This really helps me so I can continue creating, and I would love to grow this podcast and really connect with my community. So now let's get into the episode. As I mentioned in my last few episodes, the topic of this month is self-love. I wanted to focus on this just because Valentine's Day is in February and it's all about love, but I didn't want it to be specifically focused on just romantic relationships, which I know that can happen with Valentine's Day specifically. So instead, I made this month all about self-love in all my episodes. If you missed the last two episodes, episode 36 is about going after what you desire most and becoming the person you've been praying for, because going after what you want is self-love. The last episode, episode 37, that one focuses on when God removes people from your life to protect you. I focused on both romantic relationships and friendships, and it's also a great reminder that choosing to let go is also an act of self-love. So for today's focus, we are going to chat about growth. Everyone loves talking about leveling up. I love talking about leveling up and just becoming the best version of yourself. And again, this is another act of self-love. How many times am I going to say self-love in this episode? But it really is. But what I noticed about the topic of growth is that a lot of people don't talk about how isolating, confusing, and how uncomfortable growth can actually feel. And maybe you even prayed for growth, you prayed for elevation, just leveling up, but you didn't realize that it would require shedding relationships or habits and just overall the old version of you. I thought this would be a great episode to talk about today because growth and leveling up is normally praised, which is great. But I wanted to talk about the true reality of growth. The reality of growth is not just about elevating. It's discomfort, it's loneliness, it's identity shifts, and even your nervous system is dysregulated. But the best part about all of that is that growth is expansion. I believe that we are constantly evolving and changing, but there are moments of very intentional transformation. And in this episode, I'm going to be sure to give you steps on how you can respond to growth instead of reacting to it, because we all go through these transformations and it could feel so lonely at times and feel like no one understands. And maybe you're going through that right now. Maybe you even feel lost and have no idea what is going to happen next, and you keep questioning it and wondering if you're taking the right steps. Well, this episode will give you more confidence knowing that you can really trust in this process of you becoming who you are working towards. I was really inspired to share this episode as well because I myself have just went through a big transformation. And during that time of my growth, I was really confused and I felt like I was only going backwards. But really, I was preparing to become the version that I am today. Towards the end of 2024, I kept having this thought that I needed to stop everything. I needed to stop my coaching business. I needed to stop my podcast while I was kind of struggling with my mental health. My anxiety was through the roof, and all at the same time, I was trying to put my focus on too many buckets. So I started therapy, and being in therapy made me realize, okay, this is actually a message from God, a message that I needed to stop, and that if I didn't, then I was just going to continue an unhealthy cycle. So fast forward to January 2025, I did completely stop my coaching business. I stopped my podcast and I just stopped overall creating. I even deactivated my Instagram account. I would post a little bit on TikTok, just like nothing related to my business though. And through the entire time, I felt completely lost and wasn't sure if what I was doing made sense. I didn't even understand it myself, and I felt very alone. I felt confused, but I really just leaned on God and I trusted that this is something that He wanted me to do. I knew that my calling was bigger than me and that I just needed to really heal myself, work on myself. And so going to therapy was part of that. And it allowed me to really just focus on me and only me and understand who I was outside of my business. And towards the end of 2025 is when I started hearing that voice again from God that, okay, now is the time. You need to start preparing. But what's going to be different is that you're going to show up differently and you're going to make sure that you prioritize your mental health, your happiness, your joy, and stop this cycle, this unhealthy cycle of burnout, and really approach it with more intention. As of January 2026 this year, I posted my first episode after a year of being on and have been approaching it so differently because this time my cup is full. I took care of me and I knew what I needed and how to prepare so I could fully show up. I share that story with you because what people get wrong about growth is that when it gets hard, they think they are not in alignment. And they think that if they're confused, that they are failing, but they are so far from it. Okay, so let's go over the 5 steps that you will be able to take while you're going through your transformation process. And I'm going to teach you a little bit about how the brain works so that you know exactly what's going on. And when you know exactly what's going on with your brain, you can give yourself more grace and patience as you are going through this growth process. Now, I do want to mention that none of these steps are in a specific order, but should be taken with intention, okay? So the first step that I want to share with you is that you have to let go of the old you. No more romanticizing the old you. And what I mean by that is stop thinking of how you were. Stop mentioning like, oh, I always do this and so. Stop saying that. The more you say that, you are training your mind to believe that that is still you. So start thinking of who you want to become. It's time to start romanticizing the future you, the person that you've been working toward and praying for. The second thing now is that you want to learn to regulate your nervous system before you react. So what do I mean by this? When growth feels overwhelming, instead of freaking out, practice moving into a calmer state. Now, this can look different for anyone. A perfect example is focusing on your breath and continuing to focus on your breath until you are stable. Another way is praying. That's something that I love to do personally, or you can journal, let it out however you need to. And when you are intentional with this, you are training your mind that this is how you're going to respond when you hit a bump in the road or a challenge that comes your way. It's a great practice because you're preventing yourself from self-sabotaging and you're teaching yourself to self-regulate. You make better decisions at a calmer state and you cannot think clearly when you are stressed and reacting. So choosing to be intentional with your respond is key here. It's very important. And it's just really good for our health to be able to navigate our emotions in general. Okay, number 3, and this is something that I truly believe in is so important because it's very sacred, I think, is to not announce your transformation. I love keeping my life private and only sharing it with specific people. I think it makes the most sense. And like I said, it's more sacred when you keep it to yourself and you just don't have to explain yourself to anyone. When I stopped my coaching business and stopped my podcast for the year, I did not go telling people. If they asked me what I was doing, I told them, I'm just taking a break right now. Even though I didn't really know what I was doing and I felt lost, I just had no reason to explain myself. And you don't either. It's your life. And it's okay if you have no idea what is currently happening in this transformation, but you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You really have no one else to prove besides yourself. So don't announce it. You don't need to. It's your business, no one else's. So the fourth step now is to trust in the in between. Even how scary it can get, how confusing it can be, how lonely it can be. And I understand that this space between who you were and who you're becoming can feel empty. But I promise you, it's worth it. You are preparing. You are becoming the version that you're supposed to be. You are literally going through metamorphosis. You are shedding the old you. This is why I love butterflies, because when they're a caterpillar and they go into their little cocoon, they have to break free out of that. And they have no idea what to expect. They don't know what to expect on the other side. And they have to really break through that shell to get out. And that's literally you. You are breaking from your old shell to become this new version of you. So trust that in between process, just like the caterpillar has to trust in becoming a beautiful butterfly that could fly out. And the fifth step is to allow yourself to be uncomfortable. You cannot change if you are not ready to get out of your comfort zone. It's as simple as that. So anytime you just feel very uncomfortable and don't feel like yourself because you're obviously letting go of the old version of yourself to become this new one, remind yourself this is normal, this is safe, and that this is okay to be uncomfortable right now because you are changing into someone that you want to become. I'm not a mom yet, but just like for moms, when they give birth to their child, they become this new version of themselves, and it's so uncomfortable in the beginning. They're going through an identity change, and their life is so new because they've just welcomed someone into their life that is now going to be part of their routines. So they're going to be uncomfortable for a bit. And that's a great example of just life happening, right? Where you're kind of just forced to grow through it. But either way, it's going to work out. And it works out because of just how our brain works. Our brain requires predictability. If you listen to my podcast, you already know that I've said that many times. And I'm going to keep repeating it because it just makes it easier to understand how our brain works. And because our brain is wired for predictability, this is why it's so much easier to go back to our old ways. It's safe and it's familiar. And because our brain works with familiarity, when you start to change anything, this actually activates the threat responses in your brain. So let's talk about that a little bit. This is called your fight or flight response. Your fight response is called the sympathetic nervous system. So this is where your brain is responding to stress or danger, while the parasympathetic nervous system is for resting and digestion. So the parasympathetic nervous system really promotes calming and recovery after there is a threat. The way I like to remember it is parasympathetic has an R in it, so it reminds me, okay, that's rest and digest, while the sympathetic nervous system doesn't have an R, so that's flight. So connecting everything, when we start to change our life, we can start to feel a lot of doubt or anxiety or even emotional heaviness. So your nervous system is going to feel dysregulated because it's not used to it yet. So this means your sympathetic nervous system is going to be activated because it feels like it's a threat. And this is how our brain works. And this is why it's a reminder to be patient with yourself as you're growing into this new version of yourself. Because when these threat responses are reacting in our brain, it's pulling us back to want to be comfortable and go back to our normal routine. Because the brain wants predictability, we have to create it. So we have to teach it that this is the new me. And even though temporarily this is going to be uncomfortable and my fight response is going off, this is only for right now. You're teaching your brain your new nervous system regulation. Think of your brain as a game, and you're trying to go to a new level each time. And you're the controller. You're controlling the game. So when you know how the game works, it makes it easier to level up. And I'm not saying that it's going to be super easy. There's obviously going to be challenges like on every level in a game. So when you look at it that way, you are reminded at how much power and control you really do have of your life. So as I always say, give yourself patience, give yourself grace, continue to show up with those new routines, and then eventually you will see that you will master that level and then move into the next level, just like a game. As I mentioned earlier, growth is uncomfortable. You could feel the loneliness, and there's identity shifts happening because you're letting go of your old self, and there's light that always comes out of transformation. You are expanding into a new version of yourself that you want to become. So keep working on yourself, keep improving, and knowing that you are going to get there. It will only get easier. And a tip I want to give you is to continue practicing visualizing it as well. Your brain doesn't know the difference of reality or the future or right now. So when you teach it that is your normal, again, you're teaching it predictability. And when you are envisioning this over and over, you're teaching your mind to believe that it is possible. And when you believe it is possible, you are more likely to show up with those aligned actions. So I bring this episode to a close to remind you that if you're in a season that feels confusing or lonely, remember that it doesn't mean you are lost. It only means you're evolving. Growth and transformation isn't always perfect or an easy road, but it is purposeful. And that is all for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and follow the podcast. And as always, don't forget to be mindful, because who you are from within will attract from the out. See you in the next episode. Bye.